So, I wanted to talk today about being positive and leading a positive life. So far on my journey, I've just turned 30, and I feel like between 25 and 30, that's when you learn the majority of the things you're going to take with you in your lifetime. I know that sounds crazy, but turning 25 was like the end of my childhood, even though I hadn't been a child for a while. But to be honest with you, people don't take into account that your early 20s, you are still operating in a very childlike mindset, and it takes time to grow. I feel like although legally you turn 18 and you're an adult, if you haven't been prepared adequately for adulthood, you're expected to know things that you have no way of knowing without experiencing them if no one's teaching them. For example, if you have two immature parents and then they expect you to be 10 times more mature than they were, and all they ever say is, I want you to be better than I was, but they're not really giving you the tools to elevate beyond what they're showing you or teaching you, you need to separate yourself to get the knowledge that you need. This isn't something that I really knew, but I do take into account that when God is ready for you to move on, He will make it impossible for you to stay in your current position. And that goes with family, friends, jobs, relationships, whatever. I've experienced that a number of times in my life, and the more I live, the more I just affirm that belief that you cannot stay stagnant if you want to grow. A lot of times we try to half step, and we try to stay the same person, but put on a show so that we can get ahead, but still stay ourselves inside. And the truth is, the self that you have inside needs to grow right along with you. You don't necessarily have to change, but you do need to grow and elevate. And what I mean by that is growing and elevating is just making better what you already are. Changing is trying to be something that you're not, or changing it to something that you're not. Both can be effective, but I definitely think staying who you are but elevating upon that is the best way for me, because I feel most like myself. But if you find that you're an asshole, or when you do self-reflection, you see that, I have some very terrible habits and ideals, then yes, please change them. For myself, I was raised in a Baptist home. My paternal grandfather is a Baptist pastor, very well respected in our hometown. He's an amazing person, very old school guy, very salt of the earth. And my dad kind of took from that, and a lot of his ideals were fashioned from Baptist Christian beliefs, or just Christian beliefs. That's great. But when I grew up, I realized a lot of religion, not spirituality, but for myself, I realized a lot of religion was rooted in misogyny, and even more in the South, misogynoir. And I decided I needed to elevate beyond that if I was ever going to have any kind of self-appreciation or any kind of self-love, honestly. I think that we do grow up and we just tend to believe everything that we're told. And fortunately, if you've never experienced like a heartbreaking moment from your family, or your parents in particular, if they've never betrayed you in any way, if they've never really let you down in a major way, you tend to go through life thinking that what they taught you was 100% correct. The older you get, the more you realize our parents were adults just like we are now. And to be truthful, they're just trying to figure this shit out just like us. The problem is when you have people who are rooted in just who they are, and they don't want to change, and they don't want to elevate or grow. They're comfortable. And if you don't move beyond your current circle, if you don't move beyond your current realm of reality, you don't need to grow in that essence. If you're content with making what you're making financially, living where you're living, being around the people you're being around, doing the same things and having the same habits, I guess I can see why you wouldn't want to grow. But if you really do want to be better and want to do better and want to live a better life for yourself and for those around you, I think it's important that you change things up often. Not just one large change, but change things often. I don't want to be preachy, but I'll just give some insight on myself. A lot of the things that I held on to with growing up Christian was homophobia, like I mentioned before, misogyny, the treatment of children, the silencing of women. All of that was normal, and it's still very normal. These people will break down how you should or should not play instruments during a praise session or during a sermon or at church, but will turn a blind eye to a molested child because the father was going through some things and he's seeking Jesus. Well, in the meantime, let's go ahead and remove that man from that child and protect that child. Or we'll look at things like, oh, well, we definitely need to spend more time in praising in song and praising in dance or praising in sermon. But we won't necessarily look at if we're treating children the best way possible, or if we're treating women the best way possible, or if we're uplifting men the best way possible. A lot of these men have been not damaged, but I'll say they've gone through things and they've just told, oh, pray about it. Well, some people need a network. Some people need help. Some people need actual tangible help. Prayer works. I do believe being spiritually connected is important, but that's not all that we can do. We definitely need to lend a helping hand and really put forth some help and effort. I kind of feel like when we say pray about it, we're dismissing it and saying, well, we'll let God handle it. Don't think about it again. Yes, that is a huge part of it, in my opinion, is praying about it and giving it to our ancestors and giving it to the universe to help us. But we definitely need to lend a helping hand. If someone is there saying, for example, I went through a very long period of time where my mom was attacking me. My mom is bipolar, and she was attacking me physically, and no one would listen. They would say, well, stop being disrespectful. The thing is, what falls under the umbrella of disrespect? If I'm told, and this is a real example, I'm woken up at 7 a.m. after working until 11 p.m. the night before, and this is a summer between, college semesters, and I'm told, you need to wash dishes because your sister and her boyfriend ate last night. My sister and her boyfriend are in the room next door. And I said, oh, I didn't eat. What, you want me to wake them up so they can wash their dishes? No, I told you to do it. Okay, I'll do it when I get up. And so I'm getting up. I'm sitting up. No, you'll do that shit right now. Well, obviously I'm getting up. So I'm the type of person, I'm just not going to be confrontational. I'm just going to be quiet. Like, okay, whatever. You clearly are looking for a fight. And I get up, I sit up, and I realize, like, this shit isn't going to work. I'm going to call the college today and see if I can stay on campus during the summer. And before, I'm not even saying this out loud. I'm just quiet. I'm getting up, putting on my slippers. I get hit in the face and choked and slammed on my bed. Now, mind you, at this time, I was 20. So I was a smooth 125 pounds, whereas my mother was a smooth 300 and something pounds, jumping on top of me, putting all her weight on my neck to try and break it. I told her to get off of me 4 or 5 times, and she did not. So I pushed her, and I actually had to punch her in the arm to get her to realize, like, hey, I respect you, but I'm not going to let you kill me. She then pulled a gun on me. I called my dad. He arranged for me to come to his house until school started. Now, when I showed up, I had bruises on my arm, my neck, my face. He was pissed, but it got to that point for him to actually listen to me, because for years I've been telling him, and all he would say, yes, she crazy. That's why I divorced her. Yeah, but she's attacking me, and she's my mom, and I'm trying to do a lot of stuff on my own. I had a job. I was going to school full time, and with a bipolar person, sometimes you get on manic highs and depressive lows. So sometimes she would be really welcoming and say, hey, I'm doing better. I'm never going to do that kind of stuff again. So I would accept the help because it's your mom. And then to turn around when in a position of you need this person and they're attacking you, it's detrimental. It's extremely detrimental, and it puts you in a position of not trusting people. But that was the beginning. I went through a period of time where I was extremely depressed and I wanted to die. I actually was planning suicide on multiple attempts. Multiple times. And when I finally opened up to my dad, he cut me off. I said, sometimes I really just feel like I don't want to go on. And I was really scared about those feelings. And he literally cut me off and goes, oh, hell, y'all got it so easy these days. And y'all always want to kill yourself over every little damn thing. I never opened up to him again. We still have a relationship, but I know now I can never speak to him on a deeper level or related to my feelings. But in life, people do open up to those closest to them. And when you are shut down like that, or because you don't feel that way, you assume this person has no right to feel that way, but you don't know all the circumstances related to it. It's really best to shut up and listen, because that could be the conversation that makes a difference between life or death. Thankfully, I had another circle. I had a whole network of people who actually did care and who stepped up and was like, no, we're going to help you through this. With that said, it made me look at my family very differently. You don't really know behavior is abnormal until you're out of it. And being around other people and other family members and other friends, I realized that behavior from my family was extremely detrimental and not normal. And so I separated myself. When I moved to college, I got an apartment and I stayed by myself. I didn't really accept a lot of phone calls. I slowly worked toward my independence. I started making more money. I got married. And of course, my family was welcome to my wedding, but some of them didn't show up. And that's fine. I'm actually glad. God has a great way of making sure that the people who don't belong somewhere find another route. And that's great. Sometimes the trash takes itself out. But the good thing was I separated myself. And I feel like since doing that 5 years ago, I'm a whole new person. And I can see where they are, a lot of those people that were in my past, and not financially, but where they are mentally and some of the things they choose to talk about. And it highlights some of the mistakes I've made growing up and as an adult, of what I chose to engage in and what I chose to indulge in and what was fun for me. Now, after being, I feel like, finally fully realized adult and mature, I feel like separating myself made the difference between a lonely and sad life and the same old to productive and progressive and being happy. And so I decided to make this podcast because I know at some point there's a 20-year-old woman or a 20-year-old man, and they're going through something similar. And I just want to use this podcast to tell them to separate yourself, gain your independence, do your own research, don't depend on anyone. Get to the point where you are 100% self-sufficient. Do whatever it takes to make yourself, push yourself towards your dreams. You don't need anyone else, not even your parents, because we're all flawed human beings. People transcend their titles, meaning I'm an aunt, but I was a whole ass woman before I was an aunt. So I made a lot of immature mistakes, and I would hate for my niece to hold me on a pedestal because I'm her aunt. Now that I am her aunt, I want to do better. And I want to make her proud. But I made a lot of mistakes along the way. And that's true for everyone. So just accept that people transcend their titles and transcend their role in your life. And they do whatever they do as people, as flawed as people. So keep that in mind and stay strong. Get mental treatment, get mental health, protect your mental health. Go above and beyond for yourself. Get spiritual, but also fact check your damn self. The ideals and the things that you grew up thinking of as morals and the lessons that you were taught. Adjust to those and how they affect the rest of the world. If you were taught to be a white supremacist, adjust yourself to see how it affects the rest of the goddamn world. And you'll see that that's a very small position to be in, and it's very ignorant. If you grew up to be somebody who hates everyone, or who's negative, or who's abusive, or someone who's a whiner, or a victim in everything, adjust yourself and see how that affects the rest of the world, and make the best decision to be the best person possible for not only the community around you, but for yourself and your children. And as you fix yourself, you'll start to pass down the healthy habits that you've developed to your children, and you've put the next generation that much further ahead. Well, that's almost my time. I just wanted to share that, and I'll be back next week. But I really hope that that person, whoever that man or woman is, in the same position that I was in when I just didn't know how I would move forward, just know the key to happiness and positivity is not necessarily isolation, but it's definitely independence, getting independent, self-sufficient, and knowing your true to heart value. Thank you so much, and you guys have a wonderful day.